Hey everyone, my name's Adrian.
My name's Aaron.
Welcome back to 2teachone, the health and wellness podcast that aims to empower you by improving your awareness of your mental, social, and physical being through shared experience. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with us. Thank you for investing in yourself. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen and join our community on Facebook and Instagram at 2teachone. That's at TWOTEACHONE, and our website at www.2teachone.com. That's the number 2, TEACH, the number 1.com.
2teachone.
That's right. Today's guest is an entrepreneur specializing in business development and sales. You can reach him on Facebook at Baird Fischer. Welcome to the podcast, Baird.
Good evening. Thank you.
Yeah,
it's a
man.
privilege to be here.
Thanks.
It's a privilege to have you, man.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Welcome on, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before we get started, I did want to mention I just had an emergency through the National Park Service. Apparently, there was a bear attack last night. We were wondering if you could account for your whereabouts.
Oh, dude.
We could.
You had to.
I had to do it.
yeah, first thing. Right out the gate.
Dude, you couldn't even, like, let's just get this out the way because I'll be thinking about it the whole time. Yeah, that's funny, dude.
Those never get old.
No, I'm sure they do for you, man. Have you been doing that your whole life, or is it like a recent thing, more recent thing?
That's an Aaron and Baird thing mostly.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Yeah.
I think I've had a nickname as Bear in the past because it's so closely related to my name.
True.
But not the full blown Baird attacks, reports, sightings in Metro Denver.
Yeah.
Not quite that far.
That's patented Aaron humor right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the persistence.
Oh,
you know,
thank you.
I think we've been steady on that one for at
For
least
a while.
year.
Yeah. Like a year now. Yeah. Baird and I see each other on a semi-regular basis. We have the privilege of working together. And
that's correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really, really happy to have you in here, Baird.
Yeah.
I wasn't here for the last podcast. I was out of town and I got an email from Aaron just out of nowhere, and he was like, "Hey man, just check this out. I think we'd like to have Baird on. He has something to say." And I took a look at it like just halfway through. I was like, "Yeah, man, we could do this. Yeah, I think we should definitely do this." So, with that said, I mean, this is your time, man. What do you have to educate us about?
Aaron and I have discussed coming onto the podcast on multiple occasions for the last, I think, 4 months.
Yeah.
And I, just by my nature, I wanted it to be amazing. I wanted it to be something very substantial, and I was overthinking it to some degree. And on the last occasion that we discussed it, I said, "Well, let me think about it. Let's try and set a date." And then Aaron said, "Well, here's my card. Send me an email with some topic ideas." That's the email that you're referring to, Adrian. And I kind of just let him fly off, the top of my head in that email. I think I could help in a variety of areas, and one of them is recognizing yourself potential in what is opportunity in life, and that self-discovery and that courage to pursue. You can call it your dreams, you can call it ambitions, and you can work it into a variety of aspects of life. Where that originated from was, from a lower place in my life. I can go back to a period of time in my life 3 years ago where, you could easily say that was the darkest point of my life. And, it came from those depths, this redefining of who I am with that new definition of myself and what I could be in this world is that potential that I was referring to. And it can be limitless, right? I mean, sure, if you have some physical incapabilities or something like that, but physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I was able to tap into over the course of time. I was able to tap into all of those aspects And it started in this kind of rebirth stage, this redevelopment of what my strengths are, what are my assets, what do I want to accomplish in this lifetime? What are the God-given talents that I have? How do I use those gifts? Do I want to use them for a spiritual gain on a daily basis, or a monetary gain in my professional life, or in health and wellness? And I think that works incredibly well with the format of your show.
Yeah.
Like you said in your intro, I can hit on all of those points, but it originated in this rebirth, this redevelopment of who I was and what I wanted to be in life.
Tell us more about that.
Well, I was at a point where I was defeated, and it was brought on by myself, kind of self-imposed. You could say it was genetic. You could say it was situational. The way I like to look at it today is to take full responsibility and ownership of it. And in that ownership and responsibility, I wanted to shape it into an asset, right?
Yeah.
And take that defeat and turn it into victory. And I do set some relatively high expectations and standards, but I think they're all realistic. And in order to achieve that full potential of who you are, you have to set some level of expectations, right? Not shoot for the stars and miss, but shoot high, right? And the reason it became and has today and continues every day apparent to me is that confidence that grows once you endure and experience things that you're uncomfortable with, right? And I had made, I refer to this lower depth that I reached at one point in life. That was so uncomfortable, and it was self-imposed, like I said, and it was confusing. And what do I do with this? When you're at the bottom, there's only up to go, right? You can only go up. So I said, well, how high is up? How far do I want to take this? Right? And I realized after I got more comfortable with thinking about setting these goals and realizing them was I was breaking down self-imposed barriers, not necessarily society's barriers, but the ones that are created because you're playing in this rat race of sorts, right? So you get up, you work a 9 to 5, you work a job you might not like so much, and you get up and you do it again. And then you're praying for the weekend, right? When is the weekend coming? You see a lot of posts where, it's Friday, and today for me, literally every day is like a weekend. It really is.
That's great.
And it's a gift, it's a privilege, but it didn't just happen out of thin air. I can tell you right now, I grew up with a lot. I threw it all away, and now I've grown and developed my own version of what a lot is. Now, am I extremely successful? No, but I'm extremely happy, and I think I've laid the foundation to be successful, professionally, spiritually. Those are all aspects of life that are up to you to define as what are successful. And once you create that positivity in your life, you have no idea what else is going to happen, right? Like I've noticed contact with people that were a huge part of my life all of a sudden come rushing back in, oddly, all at the same time and perfectly timed.
Yeah.
When I was ready for it, right? Like I had to take care of me in a sense, and I don't want to say necessarily fix, but be more aware of some of these faults of mine. And through tried and true effort on a daily basis, I feel like I reached a point where I could incorporate other people that used to be a part of my life, positive people, people that I grew up with, and without instigating it or necessarily anticipating it, I've had a reconnection with a variety of people like that recently, like in the last few weeks. And I don't think it's by chance. I don't think it's completely random. I think there is a positivity in the universe that I've been able to access to some degree. And
Yeah.
that's from this negative place that I was at and where I'm at today. And I mean, it couldn't be more exciting to be around people like you guys tonight. I don't think that's by chance or just random.
Yeah.
And I'm eternally grateful for it. Because easily as I am sitting here tonight, I could not be sitting here at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to a point like that in the life that I was living where my physical existence was in jeopardy.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of my initial take on tonight's topic.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because, in any situation where we're brought to this like decision, right? And a lot of people don't go through it, but those that do, you can come out of it with this extraordinary understanding of, I have seen the bottom, and in that bottom, I made this decision, right? To not be there anymore. And so now, why would I settle to just be moderately okay with what I do on a daily basis? Right? I've seen that bottom where I hated what was going on in my life, right? And then I made that decision, and then you're like, now I don't have to settle. And I like what you said earlier, and when we talked about it before, I have no idea what I can accomplish, right? Because I never really tried. And now I'm not aiming to just sort of kind of be happy. I'm going to aim for the highest I can get to. But instead of being like a wide-eyed sort of teenager, I'm realistic about it. So you know what? I'm not too good to take that next job that's on the rung to get me where I want to go.
Sure.
Where before I know a lot of people, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to do this up here, without really understanding, like, who cares if I have to sack groceries for the next couple months? Because my plan is so much bigger in sacking groceries or working at a hardware store or whatever. That's just a rung up, right? And I'm just, don't stop moving. And then, I see it with Adrian. I see it with you. I've seen it with a lot of people where I don't know that without that formative experience, like almost, we talked about it, like an army type experience, where you're broken down. I don't know. It seems to be crucial in the formation of a person that's going to accomplish a lot of things in some way.
It works, depending on how you develop from there. So you mentioned working and putting in time at jobs that you don't like so much, right? But you have to know in the back of your head that this is not the end result.
Yeah.
And what do you want that end result to be?
Right.
And it's creating that type of, for lack of a better word, energy with people around you. That's why I was such a fan of coming on your show today. And I put a lot of thought into it, and I wanted it to be amazing. And, and I approach a lot of things like that in life, and not in an egotistical sense, but I value my experiences so much more today. Even driving here, I was appreciating, the slight rain we had. I was fortunate enough to have my daughter accompany me here, and, my significant other. And I was thinking about how much love and support I have. And then I was like, man, you're just lucky, right?
Yeah.
You're just lucky. Well, I can take you back to a place 3 years ago where none of that existed. So you can tell me about luck, and then I can also tell you about creating your own luck.
Yeah.
And I've done, I've worked at a hardware store and a fitness studio prior to what I do today. And I did those jobs with pride, because I knew that whole time I was going to get to a place closer to where I'm at today. Every day I got up and I was on time, right?
Yeah.
I was positive, and I knew that I was building that foundation, those footsteps one after another to get to a better place.
Yeah. And just for a little perspective, without going into too much detail, how many people do you oversee on a daily basis?
Oh, that's not many today. It's, it's probably, I'd say half a dozen.
Right. But I mean, even in just 3 years, to get to a place where, not only are you providing opportunity for yourself, but for others,
Sure.
through just like drive and success one leg at a time. And I think that's the key, because a lot of people would be like, you know what? I was not born to do this job, so I'm not going to appreciate my time there. Where you looked at it completely differently. Like, is this where I want to be in 3 years? No. But is this where I'm at today? Yeah. So I'm going to appreciate what's going on right there, but also know that I'm still working for what I want to do up there.
To add to what you just said, that perspective, I didn't, for what I do today,
Yeah.
I did not go to school for. I honestly didn't finish college, but I sure attended it for like dang near 9 or 10 years.
Yeah.
I was just this party boy that would sign up for classes and drop them.
Mm-hmm.
And the job that I have today is in a field of work that normally requires a much more substantial degree than, 3 years completed or whatever I have in a arts and science degree. That experience to break through a world that is intimidating, to try and learn as fast as possible, to learn people and a business and a field of work that I didn't necessarily go to school for was the most rewarding process once you get to look back on it. And I haven't fully moved through it to look back, but 2 years into it, I can at least take a little bit of a peek over my shoulder and say, you remember when you were walking into, you could take any given day in that first 6 months and think, man, I'm completely overwhelmed. I honestly don't. If you asked me more than a handful of questions about a particular product or project that I was on, I would have been at a loss for an answer. But it was that moving out of my comfort zone that started to expand my horizons. And if I didn't have the courage to at least try it, I mean, like showing up's like 80% or something. Like there's a nice little saying that just show up.
Yeah.
Right. And just bring your body and your mind will follow. That's exactly what I was doing on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Whether it was my routine maintenance for health and mental, or professional.
Yeah.
It literally branched off into every direction of my life. And it started with, my self-discipline, how I viewed myself, how I ate, how I exercised, how I approached challenges in life. And it's all building blocks for that self-discovery, self-confidence, and just overall ability to get up every morning and say, I'm going to handle this.
Yeah, I'm gonna crush this, to quote
Yeah.
from talking the other day. Yeah.
And you don't always every day.
No.
But when you think you are, every single day you get up,
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, most days you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta imagine, it's a little bit, I've never played professional baseball, but I imagine that the guys who play professionally, right, who know that the average is like, if you're hitting 300, right, which is less than a third, you're a great hitter.
Right.
Right. But I
You're
guarantee
batting
you.
300,
Yeah.
350.
Yeah.
You're on the All-Star team, right?
Yeah,
Is it
right.
400 or something like
Oh
that?
yeah. If you're 400, you would be in the Hall of Fame. If you could hit 400 consistently.
Sure.
And the thing is, I guarantee you that each one of those guys, whether they're hitting 192 or 330, every time they get up there, they're planning on crushing it.
Yeah.
They're planning on, I'm going to get a hit. And and then you have to not be intimidated. You're like, okay, I didn't get it this time, but next time I'm up there, I got this. Every time they walk up, right? And they get to do what they love for a living. And I think it's kind of the same way with, anything that you do. And you're like living proof of it, right? Because you're living that. If you walk in there thinking to yourself, because we talked a little bit about that earlier, that intimidation factor at the beginning, but you didn't let it stop you.
I had a great image in my head when you were describing your baseball analogy. Was as a kid I watched Bo Jackson a lot, right?
Oh yeah.
And I just flashed back to that moment where he struck out and then snapped the baseball bat over his leg. Do you guys remember? You remember that, Adrian? Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about how that's that type of not only confidence, but emotional attachment to what you're doing. Now, I know that's not like a positive image in your mind when you're snapping a baseball bat, right? But
Right.
That's just where my mind went because he's one of the greatest baseball players, if you ask me, and two sport athletes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you don't even see two sport athletes
No, if he hadn't
today,
gotten hurt, man.
right? And that's just kind of where my mind went when you were using your well applied baseball analogy.
It's that passion. You
Yeah.
know? It's, I have a friend who's, a child, this is many years ago, used to just, absolutely kind of freak out when he would lose. And at the time, I was like, no, that's not an appropriate behavior. But properly harnessed,
Sure.
that emotion is what will produce just a quality person. Because if you approach everything you do with that kind of passion, and then just learn to regulate when it doesn't happen, because nobody's going to win every time, you can accomplish great things. But like passion has to be involved, you know?
I mean, if you don't have passion, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're not passionate about something or most things in life, I feel sorry for you, you know? 'Cause,
Yeah.
we're emotional creatures. We're creatures that were made to express ourselves, you know, and if you're a man, you can only express certain emotions. You know, I've completely changed my perspective on that. If you're not passionate in your relationships in life and in your profession, my heart goes out to you because I don't think that's what life's about. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You know, I was just thinking, it's funny you brought up the emotional component, right? Because today, everything I do, especially this year, has been very, very, a very emotional year for me. Last year ended, you know, with a bang. You know, I lost my grandpa, and then I had to come back, you know, come into the year with not even having processed that, because that happened right at the end of the year, you know, and I didn't get to process any of it, right? And then I get back here and I'm like, okay, cool. So I have every excuse I need to not, you know, start to teach one and to do all these things. But, you know, why would I do that? You know, but, you know, that wasn't the answer. Things happen, you know, we talk about living life on life's terms, right? And so we're just burdened by emotion from everything we encounter at work, you know, in our personal lives, you know, all the things we're feeling that are tied to whatever it is our passion is, you know, and we're saddled with all of these things. And it's so hard to like separate yourself from those things as you show up to everything that you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And so this year, what I've learned more than anything is that perhaps I'm not checking in all my stuff at the door when I show up to my shifts. Perhaps some of those things are actually such an important part of how I show up for people, you know, as a human being that is experiencing all of these things. You know, I'm feeling so much, and it's so crazy to think that I have to carry everybody else's stuff, you know, but again, all that stuff that I have is helping me be more in touch with my humanity. You know, it's fueling a lot of this, you know, just this zeal, you know, this zest, you know, everything, all of that, like strength, you know, just like an internal, like a spiritual strength that I'm, you know, drawing,
Yeah.
you know, from all of these things, right? To just kind of like propel me, you know, forward. Cause I'll just be in an emotional state. I show up at the gym.
Yeah.
It's a huge component of what I do, right? Guess what? All that stuff is going to fuel my workout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in a meditative state, you know, just trying to like, just trying to work out, you know, my body is benefiting from this. Mentally, I'm benefiting from it. And then I leave there, I go home, I nourish myself. If I eat the right thing, I feel good. If I eat the wrong thing, not so much. I go from there and I meditate or something like that. Like, so basically the point is like our emotions it's not a bad thing to bring with you because you don't really have a choice. You know, like now I don't understand how people say, you know, just check stuff in at the door, right? I think it's more about being in touch with them in such a way that you're able to channel them when needed.
Yeah.
It's a recognition piece.
Right.
So if I walked in to the room and Aaron's had a terrible day And then I started telling him about my terrible day. We're not helping each other out necessarily, right?
Right.
But maybe 3 days later, Aaron would be in a better place to hear my story. I'm just using an example.
Right.
That's more so checking it at the door, for me, right? I think it's that sense of where you're at, the timing,
Right.
who you're around. And you got to build those types of relationships too.
Yeah.
Adrian, I want to touch on a piece real quick about you mentioned strength. And like, if you go back to like Baird when he was 10 years old, his idea of strength was strictly masculinity, muscles, not crying, being tough, acting tough. And when you said strength in what your last little piece, and touching on the emotional portions of it, my version of strength is a completely different version today. And it started with that vulnerability piece, to be able to discuss what's really going on inside of Baird. And I think that is also a huge component to where I'm at today. And that's, I mean, I'm referring to therapy. I'm referring to having an opportunity to share where you're at with a valued, respected individual. And I highly encourage anybody to go through that, needed or unneeded.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I remember as like a little kid, that you'd tell somebody like, you need therapy, right? And it'd be like this huge insult, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know where I saw it, or I know it existed, but it was kind of like a little like dagger of sorts, right? And
Toxic masculinity, man.
yeah, right. Like, you need to get some help, right? You need therapy, right? And just the word would make you kind of feel like uncomfortable. I mean, I don't even think that's like how my dad was or I was raised, but this was definitely like a societal norm.
Yes.
For a long period of time in my life. And in this dark moment that I went through, I was accepting that kind of help and that kind of approach. I was accepting all advice. And from that experience, I never imagined the self-awareness that came out of that, with sure confidence, but more so emotionally, to gauge when I'm mentally prepared, to know when to say, I can take that on. Do I make that commitment? Am I on time and prepared to a date with your significant other, a business meeting, a sales call, or a budget meeting? I mean, you name it. That self-awareness piece, it goes all the way back to taking a real look at who you are. And I don't think you can do that just completely on your own. And I don't think you can just do it once. The individual that helped me so much in my life, I routinely still make an effort to, chat, have coffee.
Yeah.
And it is some of my most valued time that I'm able to spend with another person.
Yeah, it is amazing, having gone through the similar process, right? How much, because I know, because we weren't raised together. I didn't know you then. But we were around the same age, within the same period. And that was something like only those who couldn't hack it had therapy. And there were some people who needed therapy, but real men just handled their stuff, right? That's what it was all about. Like, I don't feel pain. We were talking about, I don't need sleep. You could cut me, I will sew it up myself like Rambo. You know what I'm saying? I don't need food. I could walk for 8 days. This idea of that. And there's something to be said for perseverance, right? But the reality of, no, I'm a human being, right? I have emotions. And sometimes through the process of growing up, through the process of whatever, the way that we think gets a little skewed. And when you can sit down with somebody who's like, they don't know you, they're just, their sole purpose is to provide like an objective viewpoint into how you're thinking, how useful that is. Because they connect things, show you discrepancies that you didn't know about. And before you know it, you're aware. And I like that because it's that self-awareness piece, that constant introspection where you can honestly evaluate where you're at. So you can say, no, that's too much right now, right? This over here, I can do this. I'm going to wait on that. Just being able to organize yourself.
I couldn't agree more. Being able to find that limit is also a large indication of success. I'd like to think that I can take that limit right up to the line and then drop it back down.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can't wake up every morning and say, I'm not feeling entirely comfortable with this situation, so I'm gonna back off. I mean, there takes a little bit of will and grit,
right,
to be able to tackle life's challenges.
Yeah.
So I'm by no means am I saying walk away from challenges. I'm not saying either to walk head into them and self-sabotage yourself. But there's got to be a balance to what you think you can handle. And trust me, you can handle a lot more than you think you can.
Yeah, I think you're right. I remember in an early episode we were talking about, there's this social aspect to being a special operator in the Army, like so Navy SEAL, right? And there's this thing where, Navy SEALs do go through Hell Week where they sleep like 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
But they do that for in the emergency situation where maybe they're in that situation so they can do that. But they don't actually go into combat just having slept 1 hour. Like that's not their goal.
No.
Right? So they can, so they've like been through this experience kind of like you have, where you can handle so much more, but that you don't definitely want to just stay in that area. So there's this, it's like this measured approach. So some of what we learned as a kid about being tough is crucial, right? But it's also this measured approach of knowing that and being self-aware, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that tough guy is still in there somewhere.
Well, sure, yeah.
But it's not who I identify with.
Yeah.
Like I was very much so, your G.I. Joe kind of kid, right? Like I had a bunch of G.I. Joes.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Ninja Turtles, He-Man.
Oh, yeah.
I even went as far as I'd put my G.I. Joes in the sandbox, and then I would know where the fireworks are. Like I'm like 11, I think, at the time or something. And I would take the fuses out, and I would lay them out, and I'd light fuse, and I put black cats in the G.I. Joe's like sand and blow them up. Yeah. So I mean that tough guy is still in there, right. But it's definitely not who I identify with today. The person that I have become today has much more depth and layers and respect for life, for other people's lives, for how fragile life can be, and to honestly know I love what I am today. I love life. I love relationships and people, to the point where my significant other thinks I talk too much to random people, right? Like it could be a neighbor, it could be the mailman, it could be somebody I never met before, but I think that's a gift.
Oh yeah.
And I use it for work. I mean, I really do. I mean, I'm in sales and business development, and I can relate to just about any walk of life today because of my experiences.
Yeah.
And I use that as a tool and an asset. It's an ability to walk into a situation, recognize in a relatively short period of time what this individual is like to some degree without making assumptions, what kind of their preferences are, and then establishing some similarities between those key components, myself, finding that common thread.
Yeah.
And whether it's got a price tag on it or not, I do it across the board.
Yeah.
Whether, like I said, could be the mailman, the gal at the coffee shop, the guy at the grocery store, or a potential customer.
Yeah, nothing changes, right? That's why it
doesn't.
Works.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're still your authentic self. It's kind of like we were talking earlier, and I made a joke about, I like what you like, but that's not it, right? It's maintaining your authenticity, authentic Baird, but finding the commonalities, because we're all human beings. If you look hard enough, you can do that, or, and you seem to have that ability. I know, I'm constantly, like, I'll get into a conversation with you, and I'm constantly surprised by how deep you can take that conversation, whether it be about like steel production or when we were talking about the environment that one time, because, where you present this image, because you're a big guy, like it's obvious you have lifted some weights in your day, right? But like you were so much deeper than that. And I always find it fascinating to speak with you because you can really converse on a wide range of subjects. That's kind of why I wanted, I was like, wow, we got to have this guy on the podcast. Because I remember I was talking to you one day, I forget what we were talking about, like environment or something. And you're just, like, I learned. And I'm a guy who, like, likes to think that I, keep up on some stuff. So that's impressive, really.
You can always learn something from anybody.
Exactly, right?
I mean, you absolutely could be shocked at somebody's experiences, intelligence, spiritual knowledge, you name it. Every human being on the face of the earth has something to offer. Sure, some more than others, but I think it's your God-given talent to recognize that in others and recognize it in yourself. And in some situations, in some walks of life, you never get a chance because you weren't encouraged to, or you weren't raised that way, or nobody even ever asked you.
Yeah.
So like I had a family member, an aunt, who never got married, right? And she was asked one day, why did you never get married? She goes, because nobody ever asked me. And I thought that was like the saddest thing at the time, right?
Yeah.
And then I realized that she never gave herself a chance to be asked. And so in that recognition of other people's talents or common thread or what they have to offer and yourself, it's kind of like a business deal to some extent, right? Like you can find your commonalities, your likes and your dislikes between people, between customers, you name it. And it's kind of this exchange of information or in some situations money, right? Like I don't want to necessarily put a price tag on personal relationships, but it's kind of the world we live in to some degree, right? Like,
yeah,
if we're going to have money in a monetary, denomination, dollars.
Yeah.
If I'm really my authentic self, I'd like to think that I get paid for being me.
Right?
Like, why not?
Yeah.
And I mean that when I say it could be anybody, whether I'm in a office building or a business meeting or at the car wash.
Yeah.
If I'm washing my own car and somebody comes up to me to talk. Now, I'm not always receptive to a conversation, but if it's the right time and place, I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I'm not sure do you think that that's, because I know you've talked about your childhood. Do you think that is something that's always been with you? Or do you think it was broadened by your experience? Or what do you think about that?
When you first asked me that, I was like, yeah, you know what? I come from a long line of sales guys, right? So my grandfather sold life insurance. My pops, he was a sales guy. His brother, my uncle, was a sales guy. And it's part of how I was raised.
Yeah.
But I was also raised with a lot of respect and manners, and that in life you need to be genuine, sure. Mm-hmm. But you only have a short period of time to make an impression on somebody. I was coached and raised that you have 7 seconds to make an impression on somebody. And that impression will last a lifetime.
Yeah.
That's really heavy advice at a young age.
Yeah, if you think about it. Yeah, right?
I was coached to shake hands, eye contact, say, my name is Baird Fischer. Pleasure to meet you. Be engaging. Hold a conversation. Now, to better answer your question, is that always how you're supposed to be? No, you go up, you go down. But initially, yeah, I was raised to, I looked at it as being respectful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. But sure, it played into all aspects of my life, from little things to the big things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting because I now operate that way,
Sure.
but it was more of a learned behavior for me later on through some coaching with some people that I hung out with along the way, some peers and some mentors who were like, I remember the first guy who explained to me, because I just wasn't raised that way. Not that I was raised to say sir and ma'am and those kinds of things. But no, I didn't have a father figure around to kind of teach me on the finer points of this is how you hold a conversation and this is, you should maintain eye contact. And I remember the first time somebody said to me, it was this guy I was hanging out with, and I think it was his brother-in-law came in the room, and he shook my hand, and I sat while I shook his hand. And it was the first time somebody was like, hey, just so you know, it's kind of impolite to sit. Like, so go ahead. Like, even if you don't get all the way up, you should attempt to stand up when you shake somebody's hand, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's some of those finer points of just how we get along as a society that, I don't know, I used to look at it like, oh, why should I act this way? But it's simply common courtesy, and so people can understand each other and know that I have respect for you as a person. And I like what you said because, yeah, there's no difference. It doesn't matter if it's the guy asking for change. He's a person, and I'm not going to ignore him. I'm going to look at him in the eye and respond to his request. Now, whether I give him change or not is irrelevant. I'm at least going to respect him. Just like if I met, the president, right? Same level of courtesy and respect. And there are some social norms. And I think for some of our listeners, if you can learn those things. Like, you don't have to necessarily be raised that way. But in order to just interact in our world, there's a certain level of that common courtesy that you have to get comfortable with, I think. And I think that begins with yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You referred to, shaking hands while you're sitting down. In those life lessons that I was fortunate enough to receive at a young age, never once did these life lessons from my parents say, you do it with somebody that's wearing a suit. You don't do it with somebody that's wearing a t-shirt, and you sure don't do it with somebody that's begging on a street corner. That was not part of the lesson ever. So to your point, it is a level of respect for all people in life.
Yeah.
And the funny part is I maintain that through good times and bad, except for to myself. Like, at some point I lost that self-identity and lost some of that respect for who I am as a human being.
Yeah.
And that's why I was, in the very beginning, I said it was self-imposed to some degree.
Yeah.
This struggle that I can relate to, the same struggle that I think has defined how much of a quality person I am today. The same struggle that allows me to relate to just about all walks of life. I went through that struggle because I lost some of that self-identity, that respect for who I am.
Yeah, for yourself, yeah.
But because I was raised to always give that to somebody else, I never really lost that, in good times or bad. But I can't identify, when I didn't necessarily see myself in that same light. Yeah.
It seems like that would be like the turning point, like the crucial thing. Like, once you gained the same respect that you were able to give other people for yourself, I know in my personal life, that's what allows me to walk into a room and to think that I can, hold a conversation with somebody. Or it doesn't matter who they are. I have enough respect for myself to have respect for them, and then to set goals for myself. Like, yeah, I can accomplish that. I don't have to be limited by the way I was raised. Because I think it's interesting. I know you and Adrian and I were talking about this the other day, and it's sort of how you're raised. So I was raised when I would bring up the idea of starting a business, right? My parents, and God bless them, right? They were doing what they thought were best. I like, there was nothing horrible about my childhood. There was some tragedy and stuff, but I mean, I was well treated by those around me. But what they thought was crucial in life was not entrepreneurship, right? They viewed entrepreneurship as a dangerous gamble that one should not take. Their grooming and the way they had been raised was you become an employee and you become a good employee.
You walk that line.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't come off that line.
Yeah, and
You
that
stay
way,
on that. You're gonna be okay.
exactly. You get
Right.
yourself a house and wife, you'll be fine. You don't want to be jeopardizing that by trying to create something new. And that was just their mindset. And so that had been my mindset without even realizing it. Right. So up until like this past couple of years when I went through a similar experience, it never occurred to me that I could do anything other than get enough education to get this job so that I can, and I realized in a large part that's why I could never accomplish anything, because nothing satisfied that creative urge or that drive to do something, right? Every time I would get a job where I'm like, okay, well, this is it for the next 30 years, self-destruction kind of followed.
It sounds like a death sentence.
Yes.
It does.
It really
Right
does.
when you said that, I thought, man, that just sounds like a death sentence.
Yeah.
And what else is it in the long run?
Yeah.
When you look back at that
Right.
and you say, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong.
No, yeah.
But if you want to look back at it and you say, man, was I happy?
Right.
Did I get a chance to tap into, my inner spirit and creative energy?
Yeah.
Maybe the answer is yes. I would have to assume
For some, it
most
must
of the
be.
time it'd probably be no.
Yeah, I don't know. I think some people, though, they work because their passion is outside of work, right? So they're willing to do this job over here for 40 hours a week because it gives them the ability to do their real passion.
They work to live.
Yeah.
I live to work,
Yeah.
or both. But
There is something to be said about that. Yeah. And I know Adrian was raised in the same environment because you can see it. I always find it fascinating because his drive to create new things is, I want to say, uniquely American in our own way. Because, like, whatever, we've talked about this, whatever your views are about the current American political situation, or even me, I have some philosophical views about how I think government ought to be run. There's something to be said for, okay, build something,
yeah,
and the people that try to build something are rewarded. But then they're also creating this thing that other people can come along because if you don't want to take on the risk or the responsibility of being an entrepreneur, you can find a nice niche to do something that you love. Like if you love being an engineer, you can go be an engineer. You don't have to start an engineering company. Maybe you don't want that kind of responsibility and it doesn't appeal to you, right? There's all different kinds of levels. I think it's fascinating.
I think it's safe to say you'd always have a job
Exactly.
as an engineer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the most reliable,
Yeah.
well-paid jobs out there.
Oh, yeah.
To give you a contrast on what you were encouraged to explore as a kid. In my situation, I was told I had to cut my parents' grass, right? We're gonna buy you a lawnmower and you're gonna cut this grass. And I did it. It wasn't the funnest thing in the world. Probably wasn't the worst thing in the world. And then my pop said, go knock on your neighbor's door. I said, what? He said, yeah, go knock on your neighbor's door. Ask them if you can cut their grass and ask them to pay you for it. I thought, you gotta be crazy, right? Well, I did it. I got home video of this still today.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm a skinny little kid trying to push. This was not self-propelled lawnmowers either. I'm 10 years old. I don't look like I do today at all. My nickname was Slim as a kid. Slim Pickens. Yep, that was my nickname. And sure enough, the neighbor said, yeah. They saw a little kid asking to cut their grass, and he said, do it to the next neighbor. And they said, yeah, you can do it. And I'm 10 years old. I had, I don't know, at least 6 or 7 yards in 93 money.
Yeah.
Paying me $15-20 a pop. No overhead. wasn't paying taxes or anything like that. But I'll tell you right now, I didn't tell you this the other night. by 13, I had a self-riding lawnmower, one of the Sears Craftsman self-riding lawnmowers, and the push mower in the back of a little like trailer. I think it was made for moving, maybe like logs or something around your yard, but I had commercialized it. I had turned it, and then by the time I hit 16, I was full scale cutting grass.
Wow.
I mean, I think I had 25, 30 yards, landscaping projects. And that's what I did every summer, in addition to going to school and playing sports. And, I mean, that's what I was able to see as a kid and was encouraged to do.
Yeah.
So just to kind of parallel your story and give an idea of like how to encourage your kids to strive.
Yeah. I think it's an example that you had that now it's like carried with you, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to get criticized for the way I handled some of my customers from my pops.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, the experience, I have the privilege of working with him today. He's a mentor. He's a business partner. He's a leader to me, always has been. He and I see things very similarly today, but there was also a point in time where he didn't necessarily bring me up. So my family comes from, entrepreneurs and trying new businesses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I had a situation where I was at like a grand opening of a restaurant that we tried to open, and my pops is busy, my sister's busy, and he's got some of his friends at this grand opening, and he's too busy to talk to some of them. So he goes, "Here, would you talk to so and so?" I said, "Yeah, sure." I said, "Hey, I'm Baird Fischer. Nice to meet you." He goes, Are you John's son?" And I go, Yeah. He goes, "I didn't know John had a son." And the reason I tell that story today is because I never held it against him. It was a form of emotional survival for him.
Yeah. And, but it seems like since then you've completely gone back to,
Well, today I absolutely cherish the opportunity I have to work with him, our personal and professional relationship. It's literally probably the exact opposite of what it was then in that period of time where that story came from.
Yeah.
And I mean that I never held it against him. I mean, I knew exactly in that moment, after that moment, why I ended up having to go through that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like you almost knew those experiences were part of your routine life.
Yeah.
When you're struggling, you're accustomed to struggling, right?
Yeah.
Like when you've lost your motivation to be a better person, your own family will even lose their motivation to think of you as a better person. And in that process, I wasn't recognized as necessarily a member of the family.
Yeah.
Unless they had to be.
Right.
Right? Like, if you didn't have to bring me up, you didn't bring me up.
Yeah.
Now today, that's 100% the opposite. I'm fortunate enough to have a incredibly vibrant and healthy sister who's got a lot of life accomplishments. I put my family through a lot of struggle and myself.
Yeah.
And today I think I'd like to think of myself as an asset.
Oh yeah.
A source of strength to them, and a reliable person. And that has so much value to me today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Mm-hmm. To go from one end of the spectrum to the other, right? It's like you might not have signed up for that roller coaster ride, but in the end, being able to find the value in it is something. And that kind of, that leads me to what I think would be the summation of our discussion, which is I want to ask you. So let's just say I'm a listener and I'm either just experiencing some kind of struggle or I'm coming out of a struggle and I'm listening to you and I want to understand more about what you think were the most crucial aspects of what you learned through what you went through. What would you say to somebody who asked you that?
My immediate answer would be faith. You could say faith in a higher power, faith in yourself, faith in other people. That's what got me through some of the lowest places you can go, is faith that in the back of my mind, I never lost hope, right? And in that desperation, when you build from that disparity, you create very small increments of self-confidence. And it's all about perspective. When I look back at that, I wouldn't trade it for anything today. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody either, by no means, but I wouldn't trade it at all. I mean, that's why I'm sitting here today, is because I feel like there's so much value in what you guys offer on this podcast as human beings in my life, in our line of work, which you guys put in way more hours than I do. And, you know, it falls into that category of, did you think you were capable of sitting here tonight, you know, hosting this podcast with all this wealth and spiritual knowledge and growth and development? Or, you know, did you guys imagine that you had the creativity to come in here and put it on the line? I mean, that all comes from having that hope that no matter what you go through, whatever you walk through in life, whatever barriers are put in front of you, self-imposed, imposed by society, those are all just superficial. And those are the barriers that you either can overcome or you can let run your life.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I never really lost hope. And the perspective that I have today is I would never change anything in my past. I'm not proud of some of it, but for the quality of person that I am today and the quality of people that are in my world today, I wouldn't have them if I hadn't gone through that. So it's really how you shape it. It's your perspective. You gonna let it hold you back, or are you gonna break on through it?
Right on, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think those are the words, you know?
I mean, I couldn't more wholeheartedly say that and embody it at the same time. And that's the expectation I have every day I get up. Am I gonna run from it, or am I gonna acknowledge it and turn it into a positive in everything that I do?
Yeah.
From sun up to sun down.
That's inspiring.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, I think we've come to the conclusion. Is there any last words that you'd like to say?
Book recommendation. Is there a book that you have read that, you know, just really struck a chord with you, you know, like damn near changed your, like, you know, your core values, you know, made you question some things and, just, you know, had a significant impact on you and how you operate?
Ooh, that's a good question, Adrian.
Don't say the 4 Agreements, because we've gotten that one just about 5,000 times, including myself. I've recommended it so many times. Have you read that?
Yeah, I've read the 4 Agreements.
It's a cool one. I love it.
I mean, it seems to be a running theme in our world.
Yeah.
In our life.
Yeah.
The most impactful book recently, and I'd say in the last 3 years, was a biography on John D. Rockefeller.
I am so fascinated with that guy. I just recently started.
Are you?
I got to learn about him and you know, how he got to where he got. And I was blown away, man. Yeah.
I mean, you can take some parallels to success and money out of it, but I read it as a relentless drive and capitalizing on opportunity that's put in front of you. And I don't think it has to have the American dollar put right next to his name. I think you could shape it into a form of success in any avenue of life. I just think he happened to put it towards financial gain.
Right.
But it's that relentless drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of a how-to.
Right.
You know, apply it to whatever it is you're, you know, reaching for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like if he'd put that drive towards playing the violin,
right,
he'd have been like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what blew me away about it. You know, everyone, when you hear that name, obviously you think about financially, I mean, one of the most successful people fiscally, right?
Wealth.
Just,
yeah.
just staggering wealth, right? You know, but it was the story, you know, that really struck me of the man, right? And like, you know, all the things that he did and all the things that are revealed about who this guy was, right? Like the inner workings, you know, like the things that happened. Yeah. You know, obviously huge, you know, I mean, but yeah, it was just learning more about the person that was really, really insightful for me.
Well, one of the attractive components was the timing of his instinct and his ability to recognize where to put his energy. Struck a real chord with me. Sure, it was in a period of time where there was so much growth about to happen. You know, whether it was population growth or industrial growth or technology. What a fun time to be alive and to have so much opportunity in front of you if you're willing to reach out and grab it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that opportunity is only for those who see it. And he was alone in that, and that's how he was able to get ahead.
Exactly.
You know? Mm-hmm. You know, so yeah, you know, even today, look at Jeff Bezos. Mm-hmm. Dude, no one was looking for him. That dude was building the most successful, largest company in the world years ago in a garage, and no one was looking for him, man.
I saw some post where it was like one of the original Amazon posts, and I don't even remember like exactly what it was saying, but it was a picture of him, it was an idea, and everybody thought he was semi crazy for thinking that this could be successful. Mm-hmm. It's the entrepreneur in them. It's the want to believe in what they're doing. Whenever you walk into a room, believe in yourself, believe in your product, believe in whatever your dream is. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be successful. Truly believing in it.
Right.
Not just saying, all right, I believe it. I'm going to walk into this room and then I'm going to walk out of it. I'm going to stop believing it.
Right.
And that's not true belief. It's that relentless pursuit of what you believe to be true.
Yeah. Authenticity. So we spoke about last week. It's like a different side of the same coin, right?
Yeah. And I mean, and there's a big part of me that wants to say, are these conflicting? I mean, are you talking about being authentic and then you're talking about, John D. Rockefeller or, you know, Jeff Bezos or whoever? I think they're one and the same.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. And it can be shaped.
Yeah. Because it's their authenticity to their dream that led to their success. You know, we didn't notice them. It's like Adrian said, we didn't notice Jeff Bezos when he was building his dream, but he believed it. And the people that he spoke to that eventually, you know, were to back him or even, you know, agree to work with him or for him, that had to have been that energy, right? They were like, I don't really see it, but he sure seems to see it. And you know?
And they ask, in that belief, you ask for it.
Yeah.
Like you ask for the belief of others to believe in you. I think Steve Jobs is a great example too. While we're throwing out all these big names, he basically said, I'm going to call up Hewlett Packard and I'm going to ask to be a part of whatever they're creating. I think it was like switchboards or something like that. He literally called him up, the owner. It was in the phone book. And he was like, yeah, sure. And then and then he called him back later and was like, hey, do you want a job at the Hewlett Packard factory? And that's what started that whole line of success.
Wow, yeah.
And developed into what we have today, the phone that's sitting next to me today.
Right.
Literally said, I'm going to call him up and ask him. Looked up this dude's phone. I don't know who the guy's name is, but looked him up in the phone book, called him up.
Yeah.
Said, hey, I want to be a part of whatever you're doing.
Right.
Because he believed that strongly.
Yeah.
In himself and what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Crucial.
Yeah.
And so uniquely, I don't know, well, yeah, I want to say uniquely American. I mean, it's one of those things that makes me proud to be an American. Outside of whatever political things that you think of, or our history has not been perfect like any other place on earth, but there is something about these American success stories where our way of life and the economic system that we live under has allowed people of great vision and tenacity and courage and belief to accomplish great things. And yes, it's normally expressed in money, but let's think of how useful that phone is, right? Let's think of the usefulness of what Rockefeller built, right, through his tenacity. And yes, it earned him great wealth, but he had to build something. Steve Jobs built something. Bezos is building something that's convenient and useful and heading into the future. And that's what we're talking about. Like, find your dream, find your thing, believe in who you are, and then go get it.
Dream big.
Yeah.
When you were asked as a kid, what do you want to be?
Right.
Now, I don't think your answer is going to be the same today necessarily as what it was as a kid, but the theme there is believe in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Dream big and believe in it.
Yeah, you guys inspire me because I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for Adrian's vision, and like we talked about, I wasn't raised that way. And so every time I'm around people like that, it gives me new energy and new hope and new, I want to say, like, just new direction, right? Like, find that. I don't know that I've found it yet, but I know I'm part of it right now. And I think if you're out there and you're listening to this, maybe you haven't found it either, but you should look. Maybe you should go talk to somebody. Maybe you should find that thing in you that you love and then go grab it, both hands. Don't stop until you've mastered it.
Self-discovery.
Yeah.
Desire.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. Let's go build something.
Yeah.
Let's just leave here and go build a house with our bare hands.
Did you say with our bared hands?
Yeah. With your bared hands.
Genius. Adrian, bringing it in for the win.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure to have you on, Baird. I knew it was going to be great. And yeah, when we saw that email, we were like, yeah. And it just confirms what I already knew. So thank you so much for being on. I know this is just going to be the first time. I want to have you on again to talk about some more specific stuff related to business, but
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, a privilege to be here.
Thanks, man.
I really appreciate it.
Like Aaron said, we're very, very glad to have had you here. It's always great to share, space with other people that have had this transformation, happen and believe in the idea of building something, because that's the process that they went through. Like I said, I thought of it as the life was the boot camp, right? And you got broken down and then you engaged another part of your life where you began to rebuild. And it's just good to be around, you and to hear your story and, to just have access to people that are positive, that want to do more, because, that can just bring nothing but opportunity. And I'm all for that. It's important for us to build connections, with, each other,
yeah.
Like-minded, folks. So if anyone's out there that would like to contact Baird, again, you can hit him up on Facebook. If you have a comment, you can find him at Baird Fischer. If you would like, you can also send us an email at www.2teachone.com. That's www.2teach1.com. Or on Facebook and Instagram at TWOTEACHONE. We'd love to hear from you. Again, Baird, it was an honor, and we hope to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Until next time.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Adrian.
This was Baird.
Have a good one.